What's going on, everyone? So I really think the signing of Luke Kornet is one that could be more significant than we realize, right? The San Antonio Spurs adding Luke Kornet does a couple things for this team. One, and the biggest one, is it gives them a rim protector when Victor Wembanyama is away, whether he's getting the night off or he's on the bench getting rest or whatever, right? One of the problems was when Wemby went to the bench, the San Antonio Spurs defense just tanked in the gutter. Luke Kornet, at least the last few seasons, has really been up there as far as, holding opponents to a lower percentage, and just, you can't score on him when he's around the rim. He was in, the top 5, I believe, in opponents' field goal percentage when he was the defensive player, right? So when he's defending and protecting that rim, he's a guy that can be a real difference maker. He also allows Wemby now to play more 4, which you're hearing a lot of reports, and I've talked about for years now about Wemby playing the 4 spot, because Wemby wants to take and try to make 8 threes a game, right? And he's going to get 20 field goal attempts and all that stuff, right? And look, I've made it very clear how I feel about Wemby taking 10 threes a game. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not saying he shouldn't take any threes. He should, but I don't like the idea of half of his field goal attempts being threes. I think he should have it balanced out. Obviously, if you have a night where you're just lights out, or if he's shooting, if he's shooting 43% from 3-point range, then sure, let him fly. Take all 20 of them, right? If you're shooting 43%, but the reality is he's probably not going to shoot that, at least, maybe. I don't want to say never say never. He has improved his 3-point shooting, but I don't think he's going to go from 35% to now he's, shooting the lights out, one of the best 3-point shooters in basketball. And even then, you look at guys like Karl-Anthony Towns, who's a career 40% 3-point shooter and might be the best 3-point shooting big man ever. He's only taken 4 or 5 attempts a game on average, right? Again, there's obviously those outliers, but what Luke Kornet does is it gives you that presence on the inside that can help rebound, help be a defender. It allows you to allow Wemby to be more in that kind of free safety role, that scouting role, to where he can kind of play and read, as the game progresses. He can kind of be that anchor, be that help defender, defend and switch out on the perimeter, shut things down out on the perimeter, right? Brian Wright talked about how he really wants this Spurs team to have that defensive identity. Right? That's one of the big emphasis this offseason, is they wanted to create and build this defensive identity. And you have the pieces, right? You have guys that can defend multiple positions. De'Aaron Fox can be a good defense player, and especially if he doesn't have to do everything, he might be even better, right? But De'Aaron Fox can be a good defense player. Stephon Castle has shown he could be great, right? You got Harrison Barnes, who could be a good defense player. Victor Wembanyama, obviously, probably went in defensive player of the year every year he's in the league until, as long as he plays 65 games, right? Or they get voter fatigue, one of the two, right? And now you add in a guy in Luke Kornet who gives you that stability. He gives you that veteran presence. He gives you a guy that knows, understands, and plays his role, right? And he's a guy that you can deploy and play on the big boys, especially in the Western Conference. I mean, think of all the center. You got, Sabonis, Jokic, Zach Edey, you got Şengün, right? You got DeAndre Ayton, you got Anthony Davis, you got all these guys that you're going to, on a nightly basis, have to match up and defend against, that are skilled, that can score the basketball, that can, are big physical bodies and presence, that can bang with the big boys downside, right? And do you really want to put that wear and tear on a Victor Wembanyama game in and game out, night in and night out, especially come playoff time? Do you want Wemby to have to bang with Jokic for 30 minutes a night, down low? Probably not, right? So having a guy in Luke Kornet gives you that guy that can be that defensive piece, continue to be and provide a defensive anchor for you alongside Wemby, but also when Wemby gets time off or misses a game or whatever, right? Now you have a guy in Luke Kornet that can really kind of be that stabilizer, and you don't just drastically tank, go from one of the better defensive teams in all of basketball to one of the worst defensive teams in all of basketball. And a lot of it is just effort and energy. But also with Luke Kornet, he gives you a guy that can give you some scoring. Right? He's a guy that can, score around the rim, and he's got, the little left, the little right. He's a guy that isn't just going to be beholden to, De'Aaron Fox or whatever. Right? He's not a guy, he's not a guy that you're having and asking to step out and shoot threes and, being this lights out 3-point guy. I mean, he's had seasons, right, with the Knicks. He actually shot 4 attempts. So he's kind of, as he's gotten to later years, basically went further and further away. You kind of look at his charts over the years. his rookie season shot 4 3-point attempts, shot 35.4%. Second season on 4.2-ish attempts, shot 36.3%. And then he went to 3 attempts on 28.7%. And then 2 attempts on 26%, 2 attempts on 25%, 0.3 attempts, 0%, 0.5 attempts, 0%, and then nothing. And then with Boston in 2022-2023, 0.2 attempts, 23.1%, and then last year on 0.1 attempts, 100%, and then last year nothing. Right? Like, so again, like, he's a guy that has shown the ability to stretch the floor, but probably not a guy you want taking. I mean, if he could get back to being 4 attempts and 35%, then that could open up some range. But I think more so you want him more on the inside, on the interior, defending, blocking shots, being that defensive anchor. But he's a guy that can give you some offensive versatility. You can run a little pick and pop action with him. You can run. Like I said, I don't know if you want him taking threes, but maybe on occasion, maybe he's taking the occasion three. If he's averaging say 2 a game or whatever, right? Maybe again, kind of have that versatility. Same thing with Wemby. I don't mind guys taking threes. I just, there's levels, right? Like when you're taking as many threes as a guy in Steph Curry, who's the greatest 3-point shooter ever, and I kind of go like, hey, maybe that's probably not the best shot selection, right? But if you can kind of have that integration of a Luke Kornet on the defense side of things, as well as giving you some level of production on the offensive side of things, I think that's something that could be huge and potentially drastic in a good manner for this San Antonio Spurs team. I think it could potentially put the Spurs in a great spot, in a great position for this season. And again, just gives you somebody that is reliable and stable, which is the key, right? You look at last season, he played 73 games. Right? He's a guy that understands and plays his role. He's always been a backup. He's had seasons, right? So he had a season with the Knicks where he averaged started in 18 games, right? That's the most of his career. Last season, he actually started in 16 games at a 73. So you can start him in a pinch. I think he will start some games for the Spurs. Right? Like, again, you're playing Dallas. Right, got Anthony Davis. You got a Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford. Be nice to kind of have that matchup where Victor Wembanyama can now make things difficult for Anthony Davis, and then you can have Luke Kornet make things difficult for Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, and you kind of have those matchups. You go to 2 big, playing 2 bigs, go 2 bigs. You're playing small ball, you go small ball. Right, Wemby would be small ball. Like you can if you're playing a team like the Warriors, go Wemby at the 5 with Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagnie, something like that, right? But if you're, playing a bigger team that's running multiple bigs, then you go Wemby at the 4, Luke Kornet at the 5. I just think Luke Kornet's going to open up a lot for this team, obviously with his play, but also just the lineup versatility and things that you can do. And Wemby's out, you're not losing, your defense stuff. I think he's going to have a bigger impact than some people are expecting or maybe even looking to give him credit for. I think he's somebody that could really, be a significant game changer for this Spurs team. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question to you. What do you think? I'd feel what your thoughts. Do you agree with me, disagree with me, mixed in the middle? Either way, I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.